Welcome to Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery, a conversation held at the intersection of substance abuse, mental health, and everyday living. Your hosts, Mark Regala and Justin Wolf, bring both professional expertise and personal understanding to the table. So welcome to the conversation. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. My name is Justin Wolf, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Regala. Mark, how you doing this night?
I'm doing good. You're looking very dapper this evening, Justin.
Hey, I knew I'd be seeing you later, man. Dressed to impress. Hopefully you can, accept me and all my imperfections that I'm presenting here, so thank you for
I'm
acknowledging.
dressed too. I dressed up today.
I know. You wore the nice sweatpants.
How's everything going in the world, man?
Things are good. Things are starting to open up a little bit. So it's good to kind of see the sun a little bit more, which is always a positive thing this time of year.
Yep.
Gives me, more daylight to kind of help kind of get the family outside. No longer be trapped in the wall. So things are going good, man. What about on your end?
It's going good, man. Just the weather's breaking finally. Being able to enjoy some nature, some warmer weather. Better days are ahead, as far as the warmer weather goes, with summer, creeping up here in a couple months. All positive, man.
Wow, Mark, I'm just in awe of your continued optimism, despite being a White Sox fan. Like that's just, very, commendable.
It's not just a White Sox fan, it's being a Chicago fan, Justin.
Oh, you're right. I should have given you full credit.
But that being said, got to focus on the positives. In my lifetime, I did see a Super Bowl. I did see 6 Bulls championships. I did see 3 Blackhawks Stanley Cups. I did see a White Sox World Series. And yes, I was alive for the Cubs World Series. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm just impressed. You can recite all that off. So just like, like the back of your hand. So awesome, man. Awesome. So what we're going to kind of dive into today, I think is a really important topic, really one that also I know speaks very closely to your heart, man. When we're kind of discussing here about just like the power of giving back in recovery and how helping other people along that path can strengthen our own resolve and our own recovery program. And I think that's such a powerful tool that sometimes gets missed when we're talking about working the program. What is going to be the most important thing for you to continue to do along your journey to not just, support and help other people that you come in contact with, but to also help support you and make sure that you are staying aligned with your own personal goals that you carry as you kind of went down this path to begin with. And I think when we talk about giving back, it's a very vague term, right? It's very ambiguous. It's like giving back. Well, I could, donate a pack of pencils to the local school. That's not what we're talking about here. I mean, when we're talking about giving back, especially in the context of recovery, I think, Mark, you've got some incredible stories that you've shared in the past that I think you could also kind of give some life to what this looks like and what we're presenting and discussing today. So if you could share kind of what this means to you, man, and kind of how this has played out in your own story, I think that would give our listeners a real great context of what it is that we're really looking at today.
Yeah, I mean, for me to be sitting in this chair talking to you tonight, there was a small army of people that showed me the way. Yes, there were psychiatrists. Yes, there were therapists. Yes, there were doctors. I mean, that's the obvious. But the God's honest truth is where probably the biggest impact lied for me were those that were in recovery. I did a hybrid approach. I did go to AA. I was participating in NAMI. In AA, I was a special case. I didn't have one sponsor. I had 4 sponsors because so difficult, with the alcohol and the opiates and stuff like that. So I had four guys that really kind of took me under their wing, and then as I shared before, and I've shared this many times, but that gentleman that spoke in the psychiatric hospital last time I was hospitalized there, who was an opiate addict in recovery, a heroin addict in recovery, really kind of showed me the way because he knew how to beat opiates. Well, those guys know how to beat alcohol. So I used his knowledge that they gave me on the alcohol side. I used his knowledge on the opiate side, kind of mixed and matched together, made it my own thing, and eventually sitting in this chair, almost 5 years later. It's just, it's kind of hard to explain to the general public, but for those that have battled either with mental health or addiction or alcohol issues, you can understand exactly what I'm saying. When you talk to somebody that's in recovery, that fought and battled every day and dealt with their various addictions, and then they get on the other side from a recovery perspective, they just speak in a different language. They got the street creds, call it street lingo, whatever you want to call it. You can tell, that they know the pain that you're in. They know what you're going through. And they also know how to get out of the pain that you're in and how to get sober. And, that credibility went such a long way for me. And once that credibility was earned by the conversations that we had, I was willing to do anything. And anything that those guys told me to do at the very end, I would do. I was very coachable because I so wanted the life that they had. Because I knew their stories because they shared their stories with me. And they were pretty chaotic stories, very similar to mine. But I didn't know how to get out of it. They showed me how to get out of it. And the one thing that they all told me to do, and four of them knew each other, but the one guy that was the heroin addict didn't know them, but it was a very similar message was, I would thank them and don't thank me. Don't thank me. It's my moral obligation. The best way to thank me is pay it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Live a life of service and help others. Take what you learned and help others just like I'm doing with you. And I took those words to heart, Justin. I really did.
Right, because that's so powerful to kind of say, "Hey, I see where you're at. I see the suffering you're going through, and I've been there, and I found my way out." Right, kind of saying, because when you're in that pain and when you're feeling it, you're kind of searching for that exit, like you said, man. You're trying to figure out, like, how do I get through this? How do I get past this? How do I not continue to carry this forward day in and day out? And how do I just get rid of this pain of existence, where I feel like I'm just kind of going through it? And it's like, hey, I've been there, and now I carry some wisdom and I have some knowledge about things that might be helpful for you because I've been in that position too. And hey, can I offer that to you? Are you willing to accept this information and try it on? See if it's going to fit. See if it works for you. Because history shows, like, hey, what I've been doing hasn't been effective at resolving the pain that I'm carrying with me. So let me be a little bit more open-minded to trying something that other people are going to kind of carry to me. And I think that's really when we talk about, really giving back and having that opportunity, really kind of planting those seeds and really having that connection is so powerful, because you talk about just like that loneliness and that isolation and the disconnect that exists in that period, in that place for that individual. And to say, hey, here's somebody who's taken the time to connect with me, to see me as a person, to acknowledge me as somebody who has worth and value, like that goes so far. And that relationship, and you're talking about like, hey, at the foundation of like what's going on there, there's trust. I'm trusting their wisdom. I'm trusting the information they're extending to me. And because they built that with me, I'm willing to try it on and see how this fits. And you think about being that person that's extending it. Like, I don't know about you, man, but I've never met anybody or come across anybody who's like, you know what, I helped this person and it made me feel worse. Like, helping other people is such a gift that it just reinforces internally for us, like, hey, I just did a good thing. I helped this person and I supported them. And it can help really boost one's like own self-esteem, self-worth. It becomes a little self-fulfilling. But it can actually, along that path and along that journey, just like the message that was kind of given to you, like, hey, don't thank me, just carry it forward. It really helps ingrain and put into place a sense of purpose. I'm here to help support those that are fighting the same battle I'm fighting and to
Yeah,
help them find a way through it.
true. Um, and I've said this before too. I mean, the timing couldn't have been more impeccable in the sense that, when I got sober, like I was part of program, part of AA pre-COVID, then COVID hit and I got sober, and then post-COVID hit and everything just blew up. Participation in the AA meetings, people, in the hospitals and so forth, and I almost feel like God kept me here for a reason, and He put me through the storm when He put me through the storm in preparation for this. And I also believe that certain people were introduced to me at certain times in my life, um, for a specific reason to, again, help me get to the point where I'm at right now, where I'm sitting in this chair trying to carry that message and also try to help others, whether it's here at NAMI or AA last night or speaking at the fairgrounds on Saturday in a mental health forum, you know?
No, I mean, you definitely do a lot, man, to kind of keep carrying that message and to speak it and to kind of give it voice and to kind of be that person that's kind of really embodying that to, others to kind of see what it's like. And I think when you're talking about this and when you're kind of giving this forward and that connection, you're doing one of those foundational building blocks for recovery that is so critical. It's building that sense of community. And that sense of community, when we talk about, like, we can't do this alone. We need other people. And by people, like by being a person, like we just naturally going to need those relationships and those connections and that
Yeah.
acceptance of others.
Yeah. And if you think about like early recovery, man, I mean, you're still dealing with some shame. You're dealing with some guilt. You got low self-esteem. You got a hard time looking at the person in the mirror. So doing simple good deeds makes you feel good about yourself and makes you start liking the person in the mirror a little bit, So, I
Yeah.
mean, it helps you from a recovery perspective. If you're like me, who has a major depressive disorder, obviously living a life of service helps. One of the feel good chemicals in the brain, it's a hormone, oxytocin, that's the relationship hormone. So it's actually going to help you, as a natural mood stabilizer to help get that chemistry correct. Um, and I think a lot of it has to do with that's the connection hormone, that's the relationship hormone. So, like you just said, you're making connections with people in the recovery community, and it's starting to grow. It just makes you feel overall better. And I
Definitely.
will tell you that somebody that's in need needs us, but the truth is us in recovery need them just as much as they need us a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because the further that you actually get into recovery, the easier it is to forget the battle that you fought and how hard you fought to get to where you're at today. It's just human nature. I mean, the more that becomes a memory, the easier it is to forget. However, if I'm sitting across the table from somebody who's battling opiates or fentanyl or heroin or battling alcohol, and I see them shaking and I see them going through withdrawals and I see them physically sick, boom, it brings me right back to those days and the life that I lived and the life that I don't want to go back to. And it also brings me right back to that day when that gentleman spoke in the psychiatric unit that I got to do my more responsibility and try to show this individual the way, let them know that there is a way out of this because I know how desperate I felt. I really didn't think there was a way out of it. I really thought I was a dead man walking. And then, that gentleman just provided a little hope and inspiration that up until that point I did not have. And that little hope and inspiration sometimes is what we need to kind of catapult us to a recovery lifestyle. And that's all that I try to do, whether I'm speaking at the hospital or running a support group or what have you, is just try to provide that little hope and inspiration and give them little tidbits as far as what they need to do and what a recovery lifestyle looks like. For the simple reason, just to give them those tools. and kind of educate them because they didn't have that, just like I didn't have that. But at the end of the day, it's up for them to use those tools and change their lifestyle and do the things they need to do on a daily basis. You know, I think you're going to be more prone for people to make those changes when they see the results of somebody that has battled, you know, and again, no offense, than a doctor or a therapist or a psychiatrist that has, all the book smarts in the world, but never lived that life. You're different. You lived that life, and I got a lot of respect for you. You're like the best therapist. You get to
See, Mark, I love it when you just feed my there's like feelings of uniqueness. It's incredible.
No, you are.
So
I've
let's
always
get
said.
all right. So let's talk about my favorite topic myself. Let's go. No. So enough about me. What do you think about me? No. No, but I think that's the thing, right? When you talk about like these
I think you need
small
a new
acts. What's
shirt.
that?
I think you need a new colored shirt. Black would look good on you.
Yeah, you got that. You got that on lockdown, man.
Yeah.
You got that on lockdown. I went to the local stores, like, black T-shirt, size medium. Yeah, we're sold out.
Thanks.
Yeah. But I think like, when you're kind of talking about this, man, you're kind of sharing your stories, like these acts of kindness, right? Like they're so powerful. Like that act of kindness, like mentoring, volunteering, sharing stories, kind of continuing to be a positive influence on people in their time of need. Those that are open to receive it, like that goes so far in combating that narrative and that script that's in our head a lot of times, where it's like, I'm no good. And you just kind of like, let's just call it shame and just feeling unworthy, undeserving of anything that's worthwhile, connection, a sense like success, anything positive because of the past and what's happened and what's occurred. But I think that's the part that just you talk about like the chemicals, like those endorphins that kind of that naturally get released through these interactions and through the steps that get taken. I mean, those small acts and those behaviors are so important and so critical because it is so different than what was happening prior to. And when we talk about, living a life that's, so different, vastly different than what was going on during that time where the emotional distress or the use was just overwhelming and like pushing us down this path, that it's like, look, I have to do everything different. I have to connect and build these relationships and engage with other people in a completely different way in which I did in order to continue to move forward. And I think that's when we're talking about why support groups are so powerful. And it doesn't just have to be the 12-step community, right? Like there are so many different pathways out there to recovery that it's not a one size fits all, that it's like, hey, try something out. I don't personally, my personal thought is like, I don't care who you get connected with or what you get connected with, as long as it helps you continue to move forward and live that life of recovery, right? And I think that's what's so powerful is that when you join and you align and you identify with the group and build these relationships, now you are pulling yourself out of this isolation and these feelings of despair to connect and build relationships and connections with other people and allowing those other people to support you, which can feel risky, terrifying, and overwhelming. And at the same time, each person in that room has been in that same spot, knowing that, hey, this is really hard. Let me kind of, let's shine a little light in this darkness in which you're living right
now. And those relationships that are established, like specifically with the gentleman to help me out, those relationships are forged for life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd run through walls for those guys, and they know it. And then the relationships that I have established with the individuals that I've helped, I know those are forged for life. We all call each other brothers. When we text each other or hang up the phone with one another, love you. We all know, that tomorrow's not promised to anybody. We all know that we've lost a lot of friends, to addiction and alcohol. And we also know that we could have very easily been one of them. And we all know by supporting one another and helping one another and trying to help somebody in need, in a roundabout way, you're helping them not die. Because at the end of the day, whether it's alcoholism or addiction, it's a progressive deadly disease, and you're basically dying. So it's deep, it's heavy, Uh, I mean, the miracle, I consider myself a miracle, but the individuals that we've had, like as guests on the podcast, you know, three specifically, I'm not violating any privacy because they've talked openly about their story on this podcast, but, you know, Ted, Mauricio, and Sergio, and we'll have more, okay? I mean, and they alluded to it in the podcast. I mean, they're miracles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're literally miracles. And to see somebody, I guess we use Mauricio as an example, who, in my eyes, was just a kid when I first met him. He was only like 27 or 28 years old, you know, and same age as my son. He was born the same year as my son, and I'm trying to help him. You know, he was on the streets and into drugs and to alcohol and so forth. And to see him completely change his life, get off the streets, get sober off of alcohol and drugs, and now be a business owner. Man, you want to talk about feeling good? I mean, I have so much pride for that man because I saw him at his worst, and now I see him where he's at right now. And him and I just talked last week. I mean, he's got some friends that are saying he's unrecognizable. I got friends that are unrecognizable, and you know, it's a relationship that's never going to go away. We're gonna be brothers basically for life.
Definitely. No, and I think that's just when you're talking like just how powerful that is, right? That connection, that relationship by just kind of giving it back and staying connected and engaged with them. It's like, hey, it's really easy when pain's around to kind of get stuck focusing on the problem and that pain and that hurt. But that relationship, what it does, and like the way you've kind of been able to build these relationships with especially the three gentlemen that you just kind of mentioned there, and I know there's plenty others to kind of that fall in line there too, is that it keeps people focused on the healing, right?
Yeah.
It helps keep it on the track and really you're building new relationships with different people who are doing things differently than what was going on prior to. So of course we're going to get different results, which is also when we're talking about this as being somebody on the receiving end of this, like, and actually somebody else being willing to entrust what it is that they're going to do to you and your knowledge and what you bring. Talk about a sense of gratitude that kind of comes up where it's like this person is willing to listen and follow these things that I found helpful. And seeing that this person, like you're saying, hey, people see you guys and they're like, you guys are like unrecognizable now. I don't even know who you are. Like that's like who you were is no longer present. Like you're a totally different person.
Yeah.
And people see that change. Like you said, man, that can be inspirational. Where it's like, I never thought you'd get here, and yet you're here. Like that's an incredibly powerful message to share and carry.
And the thing about it is let's go out of the mental health world and out of the addiction and alcohol world for a little bit. You know, I'm pretty transparent on social media, and I mean, it happened today driving here. I got a text from somebody that says, "You'd be proud of me. I'm going to the gym after work." You know, but they're just trying to improve their lives because they see the improvement. You know, not only in my life, but some of the people that I've helped. You know, there are other people in our circle that haven't been guests on our podcast that have gotten sober, and they see the changes in their life. You know, their physical appearance. You know, their day-to-day check-ins on Facebook, what they're doing. It's just it's like the old saying in baseball, Justin, hitting is contagious.
Yep.
The lifestyle changes are contagious. When you see somebody make such a big change in their life, you know, we talk about hope and inspiration in the recovery world, but sometimes that provides just hope and inspiration in the everyday world too.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right. No, and I think it's like
and it makes
sending
you
the
feel
message.
good. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes you feel good when you get that phone call. I didn't expect that phone call, or I didn't expect that text today. It's kind of hard to believe that people pay that much attention, but they do.
Right. I mean, that's part of the power of giving back. I mean, it's a really powerful way to help inspire other people. Especially, think about the message, like, it sounds like, hey, you're worth me taking time out of my day to really go out and check on you or to share and have a conversation with you. Like,
That gentleman that said that about non-alcoholic beer is a really good friend of mine. He's a doctor. And he's like, it was just a brief conversation, but I haven't talked to him in a while. And he's like, I just want to let you know. He goes, when I'm visiting patients, he goes, I have been seeing more patients in the hospital with early signs of like liver disease and things like that. And I talk to them about changing their life. He goes, I always tell your story.
Hmm.
And he's out of state.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Right.
But he knew me at my worst too.
No. That's huge.
He was a pretty close friend. He didn't see the day-to-day debauchery, but he heard about it from other close friends, and he would call and check in, how you doing, things like that. He did about as much as he possibly could do from a long distance,
Right. No. Awesome, man. Well, I think this has been a great conversation on just like about the power of giving back, carrying the message, sharing with others. I mean, even just the story you just shared right there, where it's like, hey, it continues to kind of come up and be used as a sort of like inspiration to kind of help people kind of learn, acknowledge, see alternatives to kind of what's going on currently. I mean, I just think you were able to do a great job, man, kind of giving life to kind of this idea, this message, and this practice today. So thank you, as always, for sharing your personal examples and your own lived life experience of how this has been so powerful for you on your own journey, right?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And as always, anything else, Mark, you'd like to kind of throw out there as we kind of wrap this up today?
No, I think we're going to have a couple guests over the next couple podcasts. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're going to have a couple guests in conjunction with that. I know it's been a lot of Justin and me the last, four or five podcasts or what have you, but we're going to spice it up a little bit here over the next few weeks. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, as always, thank you everybody for joining us on these podcasts. These podcasts air twice a month, first and the 15th of the month. So feel free to check those out. If there is anything you would like Mark and I to kind of dive into or spend some additional time talking about, feel free to email us. We can be reached. And as always, thank you for taking the time out of your day, evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, wherever you're at, to tune on in. So we will catch you all on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. If you're on the journey to find guidance and insights, subscribe now wherever you find your podcasts. Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery is an educational resource, not a substitute for medical or therapeutic advice. The opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are not necessarily those of NAMI DuPage. Go to namidupage.org/podcast for links to past episodes, show notes, and to submit a question or topic ideas for a future episode. Until next time, be well.